The Gorgias was written by Plato nearly 2,500 years ago. It is a dialogue that attacks the rhetoric of the politicians and ruling elite of ancient Greece. Plato uses the voice of his teacher Socrates to express his views and further expound upon the teachings of his mentor. The setting of the Gorgias takes place in Athens in the home of Callicles. Socrates and Chaerephon are joined by Gorgias, a famous sophist, and his young student Polus. Socrates discusses rhetoric, power, justice, and temperance with the men. Callicles becomes involved refuting Socrates and takes the lead in the dialogue. Socrates is very wary of rhetoric and calls it the worst form of flattery. However, he uses rhetoric to persuade his opponents and forces them to reconsider their viewpoints by asking questions of the logic used by the rhetors. What is interesting about the Gorgias is the relevance of the topics in today's political arena. The American political system relies heavily on rhetoric. The Democrats and the Republicans each pick apart the rhetoric of the other. The parties attempt to discredit and place blame while constantly trying to raise money through special interest groups and funding campaigns. The Gorgias can be broken into three major sections. In the first half, Socrates and Gorgias attempt to define oratory and discuss persuasion with and without knowledge. In the second half, Socrates largely debates with Polus by critiquing rhetoric and asking if it is better to suffer injustice or to do injustice. In the third and final section, Socrates argues with Callicles and offers his views of justice, while Callicles discusses manliness and hedonism. We are also offered up an idea of the afterlife by Socrates and the ultimate justice that may await everyone. I will be providing three arguments from each section of the Gorgias, and then providing examples from the current presidential race. One of the easiest targets for this task are the outlandish rhetorical methods used by Donald Trump. Socrates gets very involved with Gorgias, discussing false and true knowledge, and asks if there are two forms of persuasion, one that provides belief without knowing, and another that provides knowledge. In section 455a, Socrates says, "And therefore the rhetorician is not someone who teaches the law courts and other crowds about things that are just or unjust, but only someone who is persuasive, since presumably he wouldn't be able to teach so big a crowd in so little time about such great matters." Rhetoric can appeal to the values of the crowd, as Socrates warned. Donald Trump uses inflammatory language to distract his audience from the credibility of his claims. In this next clip, I will show how Donald Trump is appealing to prejudice.
When do we beat Mexico at the border? They're laughing at us, at our stupidity. And now they're beating us economically. They are not our friend, believe me. But they're killing us economically. The U.S. has become a dumping ground for everybody else's problems. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting.
This type of rhetoric can be very persuasive and can cause a crowd to support a position or take an action that is not justified. Donald Trump also uses a very ancient technique by attacking the character of his opponents. This type of argument in politics is called an ad hominem attack, which is Latin for to or against the man. In this example, Donald Trump discusses his opinion of President Obama in very simple terms.
They say one of their achievements for the year is bringing peace to Syria. And the whole world's talking about it. It's the level of stupidity is incredible. I'm telling you, I used to use the word incompetent. Now I just call them stupid. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. But there's no better word than stupid.
There are no doubts that Donald Trump is a master persuader. He has recently made statements that he would deny entry to the country for all Muslims. Donald Trump tries to defend his position and uses several rhetorical fallacies to bolster his position. In the next clip, we will hear Donald Trump provide reasoning that because some Muslims follow jihad, all Muslims should be considered dangerous. This type of reasoning is called a non sequitur, which is Latin for "it does not follow." He is attempting to defend his indiscriminate position against Muslims by jumping to conclusions and also providing false dilemmas. This is something Socrates warns us about in section 480b. Socrates says, "Therefore, for making a defense of one's own injustice or that of one's parents or comrades or fatherland when it commits injustice, rhetoric is of no use to us.
Until we are able to determine and understand this problem and the dangerous threat it poses, our country cannot be the victim of horrendous attacks by people that believe only in jihad. These are people who only believe in jihad. They don't want our system. They don't want our system. And have no sense of reason or respect for human life. They have no respect for human life.
Socrates was very keen about keeping things in order and concise. He argued with Callicles that painters, carpenters, and shipbuilders would need to be organized and arrange all of their various things in order to make them harmonious. Socrates says to Callicles in section 503d, "Come along then, the good man, whose speech is directed to what is best, wouldn't say things he does in a random way, would he? But with his eye on some end." Donald Trump doesn't seem to follow this mindset and is often prone to spew forth random topics and boastful statements that seem out of place in modern rhetoric.
Obama is going to be out playing golf. He might even be on one of my courses. I would invite him. I actually would say. I have the best courses in the world, so I'd say, you know what, if he wants to, I have one right next to the White House, right on the Potomac. If he'd like to play, that's fine. Hey, I'm not saying they're stupid. I like China. I just sold an apartment for $15 million to somebody from China. Am I supposed to dislike them? I'm really rich. I'll show you that in a second. I have a total net worth, and now with the increase, it'll be well over $10 billion. But here, a total net worth of $8 billion. Net worth, not assets, not liability, a net worth. I'm not doing that to brag, because you know what? I don't have to brag. I don't have to, believe it or not. I think I am a nice person. People that know me like me.
These are but a few examples of the rhetoric employed by Donald Trump. Listening to him, you hear a staccato delivery of short words that seem barbed and appealing to the mob. In the Gorgias, Socrates warns us that rhetoric does not require you to know about the subject matter, that is truly about telling the people what they want to hear. Trump delivers opinions and baseless facts and seems unapologetic in his disregard for others. The dangers warned by Socrates are very evident as the line between entertainment and political rhetoric becomes blurred by a political force fueled by personal income and hubris. The ancient wisdom of the Gorgias should be heeded as the nation is poised to choose a new leader in the upcoming election. The impression I wish to leave the viewer is that the Gorgias seems almost surgical in its dissection of rhetoric and is as relevant today as it was 2,500 years ago.